Hello everybody and welcome to another Premodern video. Today we're going to be playing in the challenge. This is a monthly tournament, free entry and 200 tickets in prizes. So some good stuff in there that the Magic Online Society is putting together, and probably the single most competitive event that you can play on MTGO. Very excited to be able to play it this time, and yeah, let's dive right into it. The weapon of choice is none other than probably one of my favorite decks in the format, Red-Green Terra Oath. I recently did pretty well in the championships with the green-white version of this, but for an open field and considering the decks that often do well in this kind of challenge event, I wanted to instead go for the red version. Pyroclasm is really good against decks that are very popular, like stuff like goblins and whatnot. So having access to the red cards and then to Red Elemental Blast, Pyroblast against decks like Gro-a-Tog or even something like the control decks of the format, I think that it's going to be more valuable than the white Force, Wars to Plowshares, and Ray of Revelation. I tried that a couple of times, expecting to see a lot of Terra Oath myself, and that just did not end up being the case. Like, we have seen mostly other kind of decks, even though Terra-Geddon has won a couple of challenges since then, against a deck like Replenish, which is also very popular and tends to do very well in these events. Having access to Red Elemental Blast is a big deal. You will also see that I'm playing Phyrexian Furnace and Tormod Script, which are very strong in the Replenish matchup specifically. So this list is pretty geared towards the matchups that I expect to see. You will also see 3 copies of Suranor. This is something, again, respecting the red deck in particular. This card is very strong against the deck, and I think that playing only 2 copies. With that, going up to the 4th Mox instead of the... I tried the Filter land from Odyssey, and I also tried Shivan Oasis, the ETB tap land. I'm going back to Mox Diamond, mostly because of playing Parallax Tide, that we see a lot of those, I just said, Replenish, and like the blue control decks with Tide. So because of that, I wanted to kind of have access to a non-tideable way to Pyroblast something. So that's the idea for going back to the Mox Diamond, even though I think 29 lands is very strong, and I honestly think that there may be a situation, like the situation may come up where I regret that. Still, I want to go for the 4th Mox instead. This is the latest list that we're going to be playing, like nothing new here, considering that, you know, I won the very first Premodern challenge with this list. Let's dive right into round number 1. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and yeah, let's go. Round number 1 of this Premodern challenge. Yeah, this hand looks great. We got a basic, we got factory. What land do we want to lead with? May want to Oath on 2. I guess I lead on Wasteland. The reason to lead on Wasteland there is if my opponent Wastelands me, I don't care as much. And also, I don't show that I'm playing an Oath deck. Basic Swamp. Cabal Therapy. I imagine he's gonna name Oath if he suspects what's coming up. Maybe we should have led on Factory. Sylvan Library. This is pretty good for me. So now we land the Oath, and we immediately top deck the Library. Obviously, I'm still gonna play the card that they know about, right? That is hilarious. So I'm suspecting we're playing against zombies, or like some form of aggro deck. It can be like a Negator aggro deck, or just mono black aggro in some shape or form. He just passes the turn. Well, funny that you did that, because they can play a dude and then immediately sack it to Therapy if they want to. Get rid of Terror probably. There's no need for me to start attacking with the factories. I have a lot of time to set things up. We can start blowing up lands. We can potentially find a sphere, for example. Priest of Geeks. Okay, it is time. This is Clerics. Jet Medallion. Oh wow. I guess I'm playing against a combo deck. Take the Naturalize. Well, we're obviously gonna Oath here. Say yes. Here's a little 13/13 Terra War. Yeah, these are pretty good. So obviously I want the Sphere. The question is, do I pay life? I suspect that my opponent's gonna be going infinite, but I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that once I have Sphere. What I'm trying to figure out is whether do I want to pay life for the second Sphere or not, considering my opponent has Cabal Therapy. I think I am. So let's put the Terra War on top and pay for the Sphere, and then we're just going to cast it. Can't cast the second one this turn, but that's fine. And I didn't want to attack there because I want to trigger Oath again next turn, get another free Terra War. Play a land and Diabolic Intent. I wonder what that's gonna get. So no trigger, but now we actually do get to attack. Never mind. Yeah, so let's clear out the top of the deck, play out this, and I'm just going to serve for 13 and play another sphere. And now my opponent may have a removal spell for the Terravor, but I think that is fine to me. We already have another Terravor on top of the deck. Even if my opponent kills a Terravor, we can just cast it. Yeah, they just back it in. I suspect my Graveyard Hate is going to be relevant here. And I feel like all my cards are going to be relevant. Pyroclasm, also relevant. Naturalize, also relevant. Okay, so I have to choose an angle to just not go for. I have to expect Dystopia. So I think that means that I don't want Oath, or at least want a little bit less Oath. So this is going to be a recurring Nightmare kind of deck. We're on the draw, I guess, so I'm going to cut some Winter's Grasp. Maybe just be a little bit off the Thermokarst game. Cut down on the LD. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have enough experience in this matchup to know. But I think this is what I want to do. Maybe Call of the Herd to play around something like Haunting Echoes. Cut an Oath and just... I'm just going to cut all Thermokarsts. Bring back the Oath. Let's go with this. We'll see how it works out. And then, of course, we can make adjustments if necessary. So, no land there. Obviously, gonna ship that. Turn 1 Pyroclasm with the Mox. We have some nice disruption. Yeah, this is fine. I think I'm gonna bottom the Karplusan Forest here. And as is, what am I pitching to Diamond? I think I'm just pitching the Factory or the Wasteland. I'm pitching the Wasteland. Actually, we can just bottom the Wasteland and just pitch the Karplusan Forest. My opponent seems to be on the 61 card special. The nice thing about this hand is like we can start porting, we can like begin disrupting from turn 1. Carrion Feeder. Okay, so now we play Mox, pitch the Karplusan Forest, and I think I want to go for Rishadan Port and delay the game a little bit. Maybe I should just be killing this Carrion Feeder. Play Factory, say go. Actually, maybe I should have used the Pyroclasm there, because now my opponent has Mesmeric Fiend open, and Mesmeric Fiend can take the Pyroclasm. Yeah, maybe that was a mistake. I think that may have been a mistake there. I am forcing my opponent to have land into Fiend, which is nice. Okay, Feeder gets in there and does nothing. Okay, perfect. So now we're just going to double port. I can take one for a while, and we can just keep doing this while I'm hitting land drops, developing my board. In 2 turns, I'm going to Pyroclasm though. Just leave the board empty, play around the discard spell. What I don't really want is to Pyroclasm and then my opponent immediately plays a drop creature. What if I class him now? I can also just play Call of the Herd. I have a lot of lands, which is very nice. I'm kind of... Actually, I'm not really... Like, if my opponent wants to direct my Pyroclasm, that's just fine. I think I'm going to spend this turn to Call of the Herd, just to put something on the board, and then just port one of their lands. If they have duress, that sucks, but now I can actually start getting aggressive, and I can start to get the game over with. Okay, they did find a land. And they play Jet Medallion. Jet Medallion is pretty scary. So I guess what I can do here is I can play a land and just swing for 5 and port, double port. And I'm taking an aggressive line. It's possible my opponent just like somehow combos via like Dark Ritual into Priest into assemble the combo and kill me with this Carrion Feeder. But I'm trying to get the game over with. Maybe I should not be attacking and I should still be Pyroclasming. But I feel like I don't have infinite time. Like my opponent is actually threatening to do something powerful. Yeah, I regret it now. I feel like I should have Pyroclasmed instead of attacked for 2. This Carrion Feeder being alive is making me uneasy. Mesmeric Fiend, yeah, there you go. Ooh, nice play. Should have definitely killed the Carrion Feeder. Now that swings for 2. That's a really good top deck. So Naturalize right now, swing for 3, and double port. There you draw that Naturalize. And we go back to just being disruptive on the mana. Next turn we get to Flashback Call. And double port. Can swing for 10 next turn. Just not nothing. Tormod's Crypt. My Call of the Herd. This is not a good cyber card against my deck. Sure. So they do crack that. We're still in the same spot though. So my opponent can only have Vendetta here. So I'm thinking whether it's better for me to attack for... I think it's just better for me to just swing with the factories. So suit up the factories, swing for 7. I was trying to see if there's any way that like pumping is better. The double port is what's taking care of this game. Port is better than Wasteland. Obviously not in every deck, but against many decks, port is better than Wasteland. And there you go. That's a very clean match number 1. My opponent, I guess, was not super close of getting there. They had all the pieces, they just did not have the mana. They did draw the second medallion, So the idea was Priest of Geeks bounces, goes infinite with Recurrent Nightmare, and then alongside Jet Medallion, it nets infinite mana. And then you can, I guess, draw a bunch of cards with Rager and stuff like that. Very cool deck. Round number 2 against McLean. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this hand. Turn 1 library. We have a redundant library, but that's fine. So McLean could be playing something like zombies. He likes to play all sorts of decks, so it's really tough to know what he may do. And he's been playing some blue-white flippy, and more lately he's been playing the 5-color Negator deck, which, by the way, has looked pretty decent to me. Okay, looks like that's what we're up against. There's a factory, which is great. Thermocars. So do we want to blow up a land, or do we want to play Sphere? I think I want to play Sphere. We're going to draw here, though. So let's play Treetop and play Sphere and say go. So by playing the Treetop here, now next turn I have 4 mana to blow up a land or to do something else if necessary. I can also use the factory. Library is just doing some pretty good work here. Another Sphere is interesting. Kind of want this fetch land though. I think I'm just gonna be blowing up the land. So I'll just fetch for, I guess, just a green source here. Could fetch for red for power class in case I draw it. Yeah, that's fine. I can take some damage from this Llanowar, and that deck actually does not have that many access to colored mana, so I can try to fight on that axis. Treva's Ruins, that's a nice one to Thermocars. That's a Terravor, that's a Naturalize. Okay, we obviously want the Terravor. This deck does play, so I cannot get too cocky because this deck plays Winter Orb. Yeah, so let's just Thermokarst there. And it also plays Swords to Plowshares. Okay, so these are pretty much dead cards, but this Terravor is not half dead. It's very much alive. Can't go too low on life because of cards like Port is very nice. And because of cards like Fire and Ice. So let's serve for 4 and let's play the Port. We're gonna drop another Terravor. Meant to port. Hope we don't get punished by that. Oh, okay, so he's just being a good sport about it. I appreciate that. So even if he does have the Winter Orb, it's not really that big of a deal because I already have the Naturalize floating here. Yeah, we're just gonna draw it now. So what makes me pause here is not so much something like Winter Orb, but more so something like Swords to Plowshares. I want to get the game over with, and if that's my goal, then I'm trying to think, what if my opponent has Swords to Plowshares on one of his Terravors? I think that means that I want to swing with the Treetop Village. I think so. So now they plow a Terravor. We still get in for 7. He plows the Treetop. Interesting. Wow, what does that mean? He just wants to constrict me on mana. Okay, that probably just means that he has another Swords to Plowshares. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm actually gonna let him untap, and I'm going to tap the Undiscovered Paradise. This opens up some library shenanigans too. So these Swords to Plowshares are not free. Not only is he putting himself back in land draw, but also he's giving me... let's actually go on... And can I put a stop in end combat? I don't even know if this is possible. It is. Okay, so in end combat, I think that's the very first time ever that I put a stop on end combat. And the reason for that is that I want to hold up the factory to potentially block a Llanowar off attack, so my opponent doesn't get a free point of damage. And I also want to port to not allow my opponent to have mana on their following turn. So that was very funny. I literally don't think I've ever had that happen before. So I think we're gonna be paying 4 here just because I want to clear out the top of my deck a little bit. Now, get in there for 6. And this time around, I am going to port on upkeep. So now even if he has Plow, he's gonna be chomp blocking the factory. Yeah, we got there. Perfect. So this deck can be a little bit challenging. So Pyroclasm actually works out well because even against Negator, so they're gonna have Meddling Mage, Birds of Paradise, Llanowar Elves. There's also the Apprentice, which is actually kind of a big deal. Definitely want Oath. I don't think I want that many Naturalizes. I feel like 2 is fine. Oh, but he's gonna have... So he has Winter Orb, potentially Armageddon post-board. On the draw, I think I'd rather cut some of these LD spells, bringing calls. I do think Sphere is pretty legit, so still excited about that. Still excited about Oath of Druids. I'm not super excited about the Naturalizers, but I have to respect Winter Orb. And Pyroblast gets Mana Leak, Meddling Mage. Like, this is a super niche deck, but McLean and I have actually been talking about it, so that's why I know what he's playing. So there's Mana Leak, there's Fire Eyes, and there's what's his name? Meddling Mage, sorry. Blanked on one of my favorite cards in the format for whatever reason. This looks fine though. And I think I'd rather, as I said, I'd rather fight on the Sphere angle than the Thermokarst angle. Maybe that's wrong, but cheaper on mana, and also, especially my opponent's a Gemstone Mine deck. We have Pyroclasm, we have Wasteland. Yeah, this hand looks pretty decent all around. Oddly enough, I think I'm going to be pitching the Snowcore Forest instead of the Carplucent Forest. Reason being, my opponent's going to have access to Naturalize effects, so if they Naturalize my Mox Diamond, all of a sudden I don't have red mana anymore. Big fan of the fact that we get to start porting on turn 1. So play Mox, pitch Forest, play port, send it back, and port the green source. Am I wastelanding that? I think so. My opponent didn't do anything, like they very clearly have Mana Leak, so by wastelanding, I am really limiting my opponent's options. Floats a white in response, and now I get to port again on upkeep. Alternatively, what I can do is just jam Call of the Herd into that. Okay, I think that's what I'm gonna do here. So if my opponent wants to Mana Leak this Call of the Herd, I'm totally okay with it. And if they don't, that's a little bit of a problem for them as well. Yeah, there we go. Not paying 3 for Mana Leak, that's fine. Next turn we get to flashback. Birds. Oh no. $1 million Pyroclasm. Yeah, this is gonna do some work. Pew! Okay, this game's pretty much over now. I don't think he's gonna be able to come back from this. This turn I get to just absolutely devastate him, like blow up the green source, port him on upkeep. And notably, I'm leaving him with the Gemstone Mine with only 2 counters, so that land is eventually going to just destroy itself. So let's just flash back the call here. And now I think this one's cooked up. Feel free to source to Plowshares if you want. Don't really care. Ooh, baby. I guess I'd rather attack for 2 this turn. Fire off Factory, swing for 5, port again. Yeah, this matchup seems pretty good for us. I guess we just do the same again. 1, 2, 3, 4, swing for 8. And like the only thing I can think of that McLean could have here is like Powder Keg, but can't cast Powder Keg with no mana, so there you go. There it is. Yeah, that was some clean magic being played right there. Very clean magic. Round number 3. Haven't dropped a match yet, which feels great. This hand looks good. Playing against Bearded Lucky. So let's play a land and say go. Maybe I should have led on Library. Important. I think I'm just gonna lead on Sphere. I think we're playing against Gro-a-Tog. That's a deck that Bearded Lucky likes playing. I can force them to have the Daze or foil right now. Otherwise, they're gonna be locked under this Sphere for the remainder of the game. So I'd rather do this before they're able to like get something else going. So now we're probably gonna get to resolve a Library. Didn't have the foil nor Daze. Okay, so whatever we play now is gonna resolve. I'm still gonna play out the Library here. I just want to cement my advantage. So my opponent can now play Meddling Mage or something. These are not great. We find some Terravores, but I think I'm gonna be paying for this mostly to just clear up the top of the deck. Play out the Snow-Covered Forest, and I guess I'm gonna swing for 2. If my opponent wants to plow this Factory, I'm all about it. But the idea here is to port on upkeep. And I'm only doing this because my opponent doesn't have Fire Ice mana, of course. Opt, you got it. Gonna tap an island under upkeep. With the Sphere already in play, I don't really want to throw these Thermokarst into a potential gush. So I'd rather just play it slow, force my opponent to continue hitting land drops. It's a fetch land, which is not bad. That's very good. So I guess the play here is to put both on top, play a land, port an island right now, and then play a second Sphere. They float a mana, so we're just gonna change faces, and second main plays Sphere. So this plays a wrong counterspell, once again forces my opponent to have exactly foil. And if this second Sphere resolves, it's gonna be really hard for my opponent's deck to function. Okay, there we go. So we should be on the clear. We have Mishra's Factory, so Meddling Mage is not an issue. The 3 mana sleight of hand, you'll love to see it. So we could Thermokarst here. I think we're just gonna take the Factory, play a land, can swing for 3, and tap. That seems reasonable. Let's do that. Pump the Factory, swing for 3, port island. I could port a Flooded Strand, honestly, which opens them up to Thermokarst. Yeah, my opponent's just over. Yeah, double sphere. It's a heck of a drug. Okay, what do we want? We want calls. Yes, we do. We want Pyroblast / Red Elemental Blast. Naturalize is medium. Like, I have to respect Winter Ore, but I think I'd rather just cut Winter's Grasp. I can probably just cut them all and just bring in maybe one Furnace. We'd rather have another Pyroclasm or another Naturalize. Pyroclasm answers specifically Meddling Mage. It doesn't answer anything else. I could have just a random one of Surin Orb too. I guess, for that matter, might as well have a one of Thermokarst. It may do something. I guess I'd rather have the Surin Orb. Not really interested in Tormod's Crypt. Yeah, this looks fine. Maybe 2 Pyroclasms is too much even. Man, Sphere of Resistance, what a card. Also being on the play was very smart of me, if I'm being honest. What do we got here? We have a Terravor, bunch of lands. Is this good enough? It's just a quick Terravor. Doesn't really do anything. My lands are good. We have good mana. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna mull. Much better hand. Keep this, bottom of Wasteland. Yep. Just gonna do this. Pitch, Wasteland, play Factory, and Library. Send it back. We have Oath. The Redundant Mox is a pretty heinous draw, but hopefully we get Library to recoup. If my opponent's got the Naturalized, that's a big issue, but... Oh, Ray of Revelation. Absolute worst case scenario. Absolute worst case scenario. So now they also have the Oath covered. So I would love to draw Phyrexian Furnace now. That's huge though. The fact that they had Mox into that. Guess I'm not gonna be able to stop them from killing my Factory, so I can stop them from casting a 2-drop next turn though. Okay, that's nice. So same play, except we're developing the board. Tap your island. Would love to find another land here. Would love to find another land that does stuff. Something like Terravor would also be interesting. Or Call of the Herd. Ooh, Call of the Herd would be insane. That's probably my best draw. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, Elephant. Pass the turn, we're gonna port again. No need to fetch yet. And if we do find another library, that can be good for us. I guess I'm not gonna be playing any more lands because Armageddon is actually like a very real thing here. Winter Orb. Annoying, but I'll survive. So for 3, yeah, I think I let just pass the turn. I could play out the library to force out the Rare Revelation. 3 mana for my opponent's own Call of the Herd. Gonna untap the Factory here. Yeah, I guess we're doing that. And I think we're interested in trading here. So we can trade. I think my opponent's gonna take the trade. The reason I want to trade is I don't really have an answer to my opponent's elephant tokens, but my opponent does have Swords to Plowshares to answer mine, so yeah. So let's play Sphere and send it back. We're not gonna port. If my opponent had Psychotog, they would have played it last turn. Hey, that's a win condition for us. I'm gonna tap port here. Another library is not great. That's okay. Send the turn back. Disenchant. Yeah, that's pretty good. We're gonna port the city. Opponent fetches. I think they're just gonna flashback call. In which case I guess I go library into Oath. If they flashback the Call of the Herd. That's a lot worse for me. That is a lot worse for me. Let's port. I guess my best draw is Pyroblast here. That one's not the absolute worst, I have to say. So let's start by fetching. And we're just gonna cast this big boy. If we find another land, then this redundant Mox Diamond can actually get us going pretty well on this under this Winter Orb. The nice thing about having the Terravor on board is that my opponent cannot really get aggressive, because I just win the race. Because I'm much closer to lethal than they are. So untap Factory, yeah sure. Pitch Treetop Village. I'm just gonna play out a library. So this library is obviously gonna trade for their Ray, but then we have another one. Opponent definitely got some pretty good value there. If they flashback call, I just get to double spell, go library into Oath, which would be pretty good for me. Still no attack. Meddling Mage. And imagine this is gonna name also Druids. They named Terravor. Interesting. So I guess that means they have the Oath covered. So let's lead on library. If they want to counter that, they can. Spell. Cast Oath of Druids. They can have a null, but if they do, they do. I don't think there's any use in playing out the Treetop, and if I draw another Mox Diamond, at least as long as the Winter Orb is going, I don't think there's any use in playing the Treetop. So I'd rather save it in case I draw another Mox Diamond. Gosh, pretty good. Pretty funny that the City Brass cannot be untapped, otherwise I can just start tapping it and I can just start clocking my opponent. It's really funny. Another Ray. Dude, 2 Rays? Oh, that's brutal. 2 Rays in the top 30 cards. I guess less than 30. They just opted twice. That's super rough. So funnily enough, they're actually going to be forced to untap the City of Brass this turn. Unless they tap a land for no value. That's really funny. I mean, my opponent just cannot attack. I guess they're just hoping to find the Swords to Plowshares. The game only gets unlocked once they do. Whoa, this is a really big surprise. So I'm definitely blocking the Meddling Mage. And what I think this means is that my opponent has Fire and Ice, because I have 3 lands in my graveyard, so they cannot make the Terravor any smaller than a 3/3. So then we trade the Meddling Mage for the Terravor and a Fire and Ice, which seems like a fine exchange to me. There's no way they can assemble lethal with Psychotalk from here. There's no way. I refuse to believe it. Another Gush. 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So they can deal 16 assays. So they will need to cantrip a lot. They cannot Gush again. So I don't think they can actually lethal me from here. Okay, so that just happened. Only took 1 point of damage. Yeah, there's no way that's right. They should have just exiled their own lands. That's gonna be a mistake. Oh, my opponent said no in the chat. They misclicked. Man, even when you have floating mana, I guess that they have luck. Because even when you have floating mana, you know, like Moto asks you, like, are you sure you really want to pass priority? And I guess they were very sure. Okay, there's the Mox that we were hoping for. Guess that now we just go for lethal. I mean, it's a very anticlimactic ending. Like, I wish it didn't end like this. I guess my opponent can just still make my Terravor smaller. So that's still an option they have available. But they missed out on like a bunch of damage. Now it's going to be extremely hard for them to race me back. I mean, they have to now, right? They just have to pump and just make my Terravor a little bit smaller. But that's at least 2 points of damage that they missed. So we only swing for 6. And now they untap City, which we tap. That's another point of damage, down to 2. Now this factory is actually lethal. This Tog goes back to being on defense for the foreseeable future. I mean, my opponent still has 8 cards in hand. 2 of those are islands, but all the other ones, for all I know, they're all like a bunch of Swords to Plowshares, and I guess they can only be 1 Swords to Plowshares, but like a bunch of counter spells and stuff. Wait, can they lethal me here? I don't think this is lethal, but maybe I'm wrong. I guess Fire Ice to the face is maybe lethal here? This is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So they're singing for 17. Okay, just take the 1 point, 3 mana for a second Tog. But I just swing with Factory though. I don't think there's anything for 0 mana that can mess this up. That's a very unfortunate misclick on my opponent's part. It sucks that it ended. Like, this game would have been much, much closer. Obviously, like, that misclick was game losing. But like, we were still playing otherwise. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's how it goes sometimes. Round number 4 against the one and only Fed Magic. I'll keep this hand. Pretty solid. We can turn 1 treetop, turn 2, probably play Factory. Alternatively, we can, what, port? No idea what Fed is going to be playing. He can play literally anything. Island. Okay. I guess I'll slam Oath. If he has Daze, I'd rather him Daze this right now. We could be playing against Gro-a-Tog, we could be playing against land still. No second land. That's a big deal. Yep. Gonna port here. And next turn we get to start attacking with the Factory. Quicksand. Oh, this is the blue control deck. So this board does literally nothing. I think we just Wasteland. So both of these cards are just dead. Which does put me at a little bit of a disadvantage, I'm not gonna lie. I think I have to attack. I don't have infinite time. And he missed a land drop on turn 2. Gonna hope he misses again. Okay, perfect. That's not a bad draw. Actually, it kind of is in the face of Chain of Vapor. So let's swing and port. And I'm gonna fetch on his upkeep because this deck sometimes plays Stifle. Yeah. So that effectively does the same, right? I just tapped him for the turn. Yeah, we just do the thing. Swing for 2. So now they're finally gonna be able to do something like Impulse here in response, which allows them to use a little bit of their mana, but that one's not bad. Let's play a treetop. And I guess we swing. I could have spent this turn to port plus LD. I think this is better. I may be wrong. But I just did not really want to play into Force Spike. That's a decent pickup. I could run into Force Spike if I wanted to. Just tap in 2 and then Sphere. I think I'm just going to Mox and pitch a treetop so that I can swing this turn. And I'm going to double port. So he goes down to 10. Chain of Vapor. That's fine. It's annoying, but it's fine. Port, port. Ugh, he's been hitting a bunch of land drops. That's super rough. I really need to find a land there. These two dead cards here are going to be extremely costly. Maybe I should have just played the treetop to continue playing around Chain of Vapor. Okay, I'm just going to YOLO here. Going to play out at Spheres, probably going to get countered. And now we only get to port 1 land. And if he has land into the combo, we're going to be in trouble. But yeah, I think we're just dead here. We just drew too many dead cards. Yeah, he has the land, so I think he's going to be tied into Chain of Vapor. I'm just gonna concede. As soon as he shows me, I'm just gonna back it. Interesting. So he takes my colored mana. I still get to Sphere here, which is not bad. That was a very good top deck. Now we send the turn back. He only took my green sources, so I guess he doesn't actually have the Tithe. So he's just he doesn't have the chain, so he's just hoping to find this a Stifle. He used 2 already. I guess when he used the other one, he discarded. There's a Factory. Naturalize. Would love to find a green source, I guess. If anything's gonna happen, port the Factory. I'm not gonna be able to get him off of blue mana with 6 islands in play, so redundant monks, not the best place to be. Once again, same thing. So next turn we are getting our lands back, which is something. Another Sphere. Yeah, sure. I'll attempt to play that instead of going to discard. He just takes a, Force Spike from their hand, which is honestly not the worst considering how limited on mana we are. Please no Stifle. Okay, we got our lands back. Phew. We do not want to see Tithe number 2, however. Okay, so I guess we just start jamming stuff into counter magic. Mana Leak, that's fine. Like, that's gonna be live for the remainder of the game anyway, so... FOF is huge here. Oof. Definitely want to split the Tithe and the Stifle. And I guess we're gonna split like this. So now he's got Counterspell, Stifle, and Impulse in hand. Maybe I should have put the Counterspell with the Tithe. Though I guess it doesn't really matter. Keg means I cannot really attack anymore. It's not super relevant, but... Yep, just gonna continue throwing land destruction spells in there. Here's another Counterspell. If we want to naturalize this, we can when we get there, but for now I just want to cast all my spells while I still can. Okay, he found another Tide and I know he has Stifle, so I'm just gonna concede. Okay, let's get out this stupid Oath of Druids and these Pyroclasms. Bring in some Pyroblast for Elemental Blast, some Call of the Herd, and potentially some Naturalizes. I think I'm gonna cut some Moxen, and this looks pretty clean. The story of that game was that we started strong, but then we just drew 3 too many dead cards, and my opponent didn't. Because that's kind of how their deck is built. Like, they don't really have any dead cards because all their quote-unquote dead cards are still like a part of their combo. So it looked like we were ahead in the beginning, but then once my opponent got away from their mana screw, their hand was just pure business, and we were not fast enough to be able to capitalize on it. Never saw a Terravor, never saw a Sylvan Library. On the play here, this hand looks strong. Let's keep it. Here's Carplusen Forest, go. Here's a land. I think I'm just gonna run into Force Spike here. It's just so good if it resolves. He could also have a null, I guess. But okay, so it resolved, so now that's obviously pretty good for me. Yeah, that's very good for me. And he didn't have it last turn, so I'm assuming he doesn't have the Force Spike this turn. This is definitely Force Spike worthy. He could have Chain of Vapor now, but I'm not even sure it's that good. Like, if they chain the Sphere, that's fine. Like, they just use the card to now be in a situation where they can't even stand still. Now I'm untapping with Library. Gonna keep the Library on top, pay for the Terravor. Play another one of these. Cast Sphere. Definitely gonna fight over this. Oh, the Impulse. Yeah, that's gonna resolve. Maybe looking for a null. Okay, so that resolved. We still have access to Pyroblast. Trying to think if there's any reason to blow up the Quicksand right now. I think no is the answer. These are good. I approve of these. So this costs 4 mana. I think I'd rather Wasteland here first, and then I think we use this turn to Thermal cards just so I can use a counterspell out of my opponent's hand. The Impulse in response. Okay, this is very good for me. So now we are in pretty good shape. They also missed a land drop there. Another land is cool. Might as well pay some life to continue clearing the top of the deck. Play a land. I think I'm just going to play a Terravor here. Once again, my opponent cannot Tithe me next turn, so this is fine. What they can do is they can end step Chain of Vapor, bounce the Sphere, and tap Tithe, and we have Pyroblast to cover that, so we don't care. Now we have a 3/3 Terravor in play. We can begin the beatdown process. If we find a land, we're also going to be able to. Perfect. So play land, Thermal Karst again. That just resolved. Yeah, this game looks all but over now. Opponent has multiple land drops. We have double Pyroblast in hand. Yeah, they just back it in. Okay, game number 3. Any changes on the draw? I'm a little bit more excited about Mox Diamond on the draw as a way to catch up. Maybe over a Call of the Herd. Could be over a Naturalize, but yeah, I think I keep this. This is strong enough. This first library is definitely getting countered, so play library and pass. Play factory, cast library. So this most likely has to get countered here for Spike. Obviously, it's like a pretty good trade for him, but at the same time, I do wonder whether they may just be better off. Okay, now I'm gonna play this Sphere. Okay, they used up the counter spell. We blew up the land. Impulse for a land. My best draw here is probably a Pyroblast effect or another Sphere. Missed land drop. Yeah, that's huge. Gonna play out the Wooded Foothill so I have a shuffle effect. Chain of Vapor. Going to accept that. With a missed land drop. I'm gonna play into annul here because I kind of want my opponent to annul here. Perfect. So now that they annul, I have effectively cashed in and I have traded for a very real card from their hand. And I traded that from my redundant Sylvan library. So I could have beaten that annul thanks to Rashad Port, but like it's much better for me to do this. Now we can actually go for that play, which is main phase, tap. So this plays around specifically Counterspell, because I could already pay for Mana Leak. They just impulse, okay, that's fine. So now I library, and in the face of a potential Tithe into Stifle, the best thing I can do is draw a Pyroblast. Yeah, so, or Mox plus land. Mox plus land allows me to just naturalize here. But I save the red source here, so that Pyroblast is just a very good draw. Perfect. I'm gonna say yes to that, paying for both of these, play a land, naturalize, boom, get out of here. Very good play by him. Exiling some lands where he gets to reset his mana. This fair guy knows what's up. So now I can Sphere or Thermokarst. So I know it's very likely they have Stifle. They have only 2 cards in hand. I feel like I just play around another Force Spike here. Perfect. And now I'm feeling pretty confident, I think. He could have another Tithe, which would be a problem, obviously. But we still are left with at least 1 land. We're looking at 3 fresh new cards. Powder Keg. That one we don't really care about. Yeah, I actually like these cards, so gonna pay, play Factory, Thermo, the Factory, and we just port on upkeep. Could have naturalized right there, because if this keg starts going up, it can actually blow up my Sphere, which is kind of doing some pretty good work right now. But I think we can just hang out for a bit. Foothills is fine, Wasteland is better. I don't think I can really go to 2. I really want to deploy this Sphere though. This is very close. This is very, very close. So this means I am playing this naturalize on the keg. No, I think I'm just drawing the Wasteland. I guess we might as well play around Stifle, but we want to naturalize this turn. So what we're going to do is we untap, upkeep, first things first. We tap a blue source, then we Wasteland. And I guess now we naturalize, untap. Now we're going to draw Sphere next turn, which we're obviously going to deploy. Naturalize is not bad, but we have our land drop covered. That resolves, so I guess that I'm using this turn to cast this Terravor. It's possible their very last card is a Force Spike that's been sitting there forever, but I don't think so. I think that they had a chance to cash in the Force Spike earlier, and they didn't. Dust Bowl is kind of a big deal, but this Terra Boy is going nowhere. They're going to need to sack a lot of lands in order to... Oh, they had the Tithe. That was their last card. But our top card is a Naturalize. So I guess they're just going to... Nice, playing around. So they're just playing into a little bit of desperation mode over there. Just playing around Pyroblast. Okay, I don't know why they waited till draw step to do this. Should have done this potentially on upkeep. Because this ability is already on the stack. Man, leverage is just so insane, man. This was a little bit of a punt for him. Okay, so we're just going to draw... the naturalize here for naturalize the Tithe now. Want nothing to do with that. Might as well float a mana here. So what he's doing right now is he's just making my factory summoning sick, which makes sense. Naturalize now happens, and I get all my lands back. Still on my draw step. And now we send for 6, and we're going to, oops. So I guess the play now is to actually tap the Dust Bowl. So if my opponent wants to sack something to the Dust Bowl, they have to do it now. This also grows the Terravor, by the way. Sure. So they blow up the port, makes a lot of sense. Now Terravor is an 8/8, can 8% lethal. I know there's a fetch land on top. There's also the port. Let's think. So 3, 4, 5. I can swing for 8, 11, thanks to the treetop. And factory can be turned into a 4/4. So that's lethal. And I definitely want to draw this port. So play the port, treetop, activate factory. So this is a forced chomp block for him. So he can block treetop and pump, but this is a lethal attack. Also just notice he has the winter factories. So he takes the trade there. I'm going to pump once. This is a swing for 11, and then I'm going to pour the Dust Bowl on upkeep. And that's going to present lethal next turn. So we trade. It goes down to 3. And pour the Dust Bowl. So now if he wants to do anything with that, with double Sphere, he's just locked up. Even if he has like Chain of Vapor or something. There we go. Power of Spheres and ports and stuff. Good thing that my opponent did not draw any Defavors response in this match, because like that card is kind of unbeatable. In both games 2 and 3 didn't see any, but yeah. Alright, 4-0. On to the 5th round. This hand looks decent. I think I'm gonna lead on basic forest, play around wasteland and stuff. Also, it gives the least amount of information. Basic swamp into the rest. Well, that's pretty bad news for me. Pretty clean take the library there. Mox doesn't really do anything, so I'm just gonna pass the turn back after playing the factory. Now my opponent knows about the naturalized, they know about the pyroclasm. I'm not gonna play this on the off chance that my opponent's playing, they could be playing like Pernicious Deed deck. Take the Mox? Damn, that's a lot of discard named pyroclasm. I mean, they're kind of not really doing anything, so I'm just gonna hang out here, swing for 2, just do my thing over here. So this could be pretty wide variety of decks. Okay, so the rock. Wall of Blossoms is pretty good here, especially off of a bunch of basics. Redundant Naturalize, not where we want to be. So we're just going to pass the turn now. Oh my god, they're going to name Naturalize here. They're going to take 2. Yeah, this is just a nightmare. Everything just lined up perfectly for my opponent. They even get like a very... It's not even a 2-for-1, it's like a 2-for-0. They're playing Survival. Whoa. Okay, I have no answers for that anymore. That is very nice though. So my opponent doesn't know about that, so I'm not going to play it out yet. So what we're just going to do is we're just going to swing for 2. And I'm going to wait until my opponent plays something to the board. Because it's not a given that they're going to go immediately and play and get like an Antuco. So if my opponent, now they go for Squee, obviously they want to get their card advantage in. And now if they play a wall, I get to drop this Oath and we at least get a trigger. I guess they found the basics, so never mind. Graveborn Muse. Okay, so we are going to get a trigger then. Unless they just naturally have... I guess they could also have a land. So it's not super unlikely that they have the answer. Graveborn Muse. So they need to have land into an Antuco guy, which they do. Okay, so we honestly may just be close to dead here. They have exactly enough mana to play and flip. Technically, I guess I can just top deck another Oath. Opponent doesn't attack, which is correct. If I top deck another Oath, maybe I'm in this. Yeah, I'm just gonna get buried by this Survival now. Can't even pressure my opponent's life total because I would be just trading for a stupid Vigilante. So I think I'm just done. Man, that's really cool. I'm surprised that my opponent was able to fit this many Duresses into their deck when they just have to play so many creatures. Well, I guess I block with both. Put both in front of the Graveborn Muse. I guess maybe they have Bone Shredder, so this was a mistake. Because now I opened my Treetop Village. I was trying to play around removal. I mean, I don't think I can win. Like, I'm just way too far behind here. That's good to know about. Okay, yeah, I've seen enough. So now, definitely want Furnace and Naturalizes. Spheres are kind of okay on the draw, I would say. And how many Pyroclasms is also an interesting question. Library seems great. I think I'm gonna be off Sphere, bringing Call of the Herd instead. Don't think I care about Tormods, just got a Winter's Grasp. Just gonna go with this, settle in for a long game. I'm going to assume that my opponent does not have Pernicious Deed. Who knows though, maybe they just do. My opponent's deck is super hot. I love it. Let's choose to be on the play, and this hand looks good. We're just gonna hope that my opponent doesn't have a bunch of things. So I'm going to go for... we want to dodge like a bunch of discard. I do assume my opponent's gonna blow up Oath to begin with. So I think I'm gonna lead on Factory, because it gives me the most optionality. Turn 1 bird, so we're just gonna go for the Oath. Forest, and if my opponent has the Naturalize, that's fine. We just trade 1 for 1 and we just effectively time walk them. Then we get to blow up a land next turn. Maybe they have Cabal Therapy plus Flashback. That would actually suck for us. But it does kill the bird, allows me to just Reshadow Port. Yavimaya Elder. Okay, so my opponent's just like all in on this. Oath, like a trigger, thank you very much. Only a 9/9. So I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna Thermokarst the green source. Because what this does is it gives me another Oath trigger. Even though I do have the Pyroclasm here, and it also forces if they want the lands, my opponent will need to spend mana. And then I can spend the next turn like Thermokarsting again. And because of Survival, I care more about the green mana than the black mana. Obviously they have a bird, so they have, whichever mana they want, but good attack by my opponent there. Obviously I'm not gonna block. I want them to, if they want to hit the land drop, for them to need to spend their mana. Also, the nice thing here is that if they want to duress, that means that they need to fetch for a basic swamp and need to play the basic swamp this turn. Naturalize the Oath instead. Still play the swamp. So I definitely want to play one of the 3 mana spells. Question is, which one? I think it's gonna be the Winter's Grasp. If they want a Vendetta, they can Vendetta. They take 11. But by doing this, I'm making, like, my opponent did not have Bone Shredder last turn, otherwise they would have cast it. I guess not really. Like, that's not a given, because if they do that, they cast Bone Shredder and then I just trigger Oath again, so Wall of Roots. Don't think that's enough. Opponent getting in there. Love to see it. Yeah, so we're just gonna... So if I Pyroclasm, this remains an 11-11, but this is going to have 3 points of damage on it. So that means, I guess I just put my opponent to 1. It's not good enough. Oh, but I get to attack with Factory. Yeah, that seems good, actually. So, Pyroclasm. I guess they could have Smother for my Terravor. That would suck. Swing there. And now even if they block the Terravor... Okay, they do have Smother. But now they can't block, so they're going to take 2. We still have another Vor. Withered Wretch. Huh, so they just let me flashback Call of the Herd? I think it's more valuable to get the Call of the Herd flashback than to play in the Terravor right here. My opponent's gonna get to do some exiling of lands, but their mana is gonna be pretty constricted. Also, if I find a green source off the top, I get to Thermokarst plus Terravor, which is gonna be a pretty nice 1-2 punch. That's a really nice pickup, actually. That's a very good draw. So we get to Pyroclasm here. I think what I'd rather do is swing with the Elephant. I think my opponent will block, and then I Pyroclasm post-combat. So this actually gets rid of the wall. And once I get rid of the Withered Wretch, I think we're kind of cooking. Honestly, I could just... I think I want to blow up a land. And I think I want to blow up a green source. We're still threatening lethal next turn. And by playing a land, I'm putting my opponent into a much more compromised position. Llanowar Waste. Face up Vigilante. Guess you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, let's just trade here. Opponent takes it. Now I just thermo the green source and port their green or upkeep. Cabal Therapy. Yeah, I don't care about this. Like, even if they name Terravor, they name Naturalize. That's clean. Maybe they knew about that? I honestly don't remember. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of whatever. I'm actually going to swing this turn so that even if my opponent answers the Terravor, we can still percent lethal with my manlands. On to game 3. What can we change? Pyroclasm seemed pretty good there. Maybe it's better than I'm giving it credit for, because I saw so many walls, I was kind of like a little bit scared of this. But yeah, a Call of the Herd also trades with their entire deck, so maybe I just want that as well. I'm gonna keep just 2 Pyroclasms. Maybe 3 Naturalizes is too many. 4 Naturalizes is too many, I mean. We already have the Furnace to answer Survival. Like, I don't care about my opponent getting the best creature for every turn. I care about my opponent getting a creature every turn. Is the card advantage what gets me. This hand seems good though. Turn 1 go. I like that. Ugh, that Oath of the top can potentially be pretty bad in the face of Therapy. Survival. This tells me that my opponent is short on mana, so I think I'm gonna Wasteland here. This may be a little bit too aggressive, but like the fact that they play a Llanowar Wastes instead of a basic forest is pretty telling that they're probably not, they don't have that many green sources over there. There's a Duress, takes an Oath. The Wreaths are real, and I definitely want to play out this Oath before my opponent can Duress it or Therapy it. So I guess we serve and play the Treetop here. My opponent can't really play to the board until they have gotten rid of these Oath of Druids, so I don't want to like trigger my own Oath. There's just no reason to. Discard the wall, probably go get Squee. Would love to draw a Furnace. Okay, my opponent's hitting land drops now, which is pretty scary. They're also playing land drops that I cannot blow up, which is not great for me. Okay, swing for 3. Next turn we can attack with both creatures. Oh, they F6 through their turn. That's unfortunate. They effectively time walk themselves there. I feel like that was a pretty good read on the Wasteland. Yep, we're gonna get in there for 5. 5, yeah. If they have Root Walla, they got me. They can't pump. Go get Wall of Blossoms. They're just filtering through their deck so they don't draw walls. That's hilarious. They do get Vigilante, but they have to main phase crack it, which allows me to untap and just go Call of the Herd into Terravor, which seems like a pretty decent sequence. Oh, they drew Therapy? That's kind of sick. So they name Terravor. Now they can go get a wall, play the wall, and immediately flashback. I mean, that does mean that they're taking 5, they're taking 6 more now. I'm not sure if they have enough time to do this. Like, they have to blow up the Terravor here. To blow up the wall, I mean, not the Terravor. So that takes care of the Call of the Herd. Now they're gonna take 6 down to 3. That's a nice draw. But I mean, that's survival. That Oath of Truth is still in play, so we are just going to suit up these Treetops and do the thing. 6, yeah. So much pressure. That was a key land up that they missed. That turn 1, like, Wasteland on the Llanowar Waste. Go me. Go me for figuring that one out. Wall of Roots. Okay, so I guess they're gonna give me an Oath Trigger. They're just gonna wall into another wall. Play Wall of Roots, naturalize. They have a bird. A bird for the chomp block. Nice pickup. Yeah, I think that I have to ignore this and I just have to go for the... I have to go for the double treetop attack. So this forces the bird to chomp, but it more importantly puts my opponent down to 1. And with my opponent down to 1, next turn I can actually present 3 lethal attackers. Also, I am, denying my opponent 1 mana, which is pretty irrelevant under the current circumstances. Treetop Temples for 2. Now opponent is down to 1. Because I can, take the turn to like Sylvan Library and Terravore, but then my opponent just goes and gets Bone Shredder, and they just kill my Terravore, and my opponent's still at 3, so now I don't have 3 lethal attackers. I feel like this line is just better. It also prevents my opponent from using Wall of Roots mana to squee on end step. So now they need to present another blocker. Survival for what? I have to get Wall of Roots. Okay, now I guess this is a turn we take off. That's another bird. So my best draw here, I guess, would be Pyroclasm, Treetop Village. So I can't really force a chomp. My opponent has Wall of Roots mana, and I know that they have Vigilante in hand. I can cast Terravore, Flashback Call to not play into Vigilante. I think that's the best line. It forces my opponent to go with Bone Shredder, and in the meantime it puts another 3/3 Trampler in play with this Treetop Village. Man, this survival is just burying me. We have top decks though. Like if I find the library, I think I'm cooking, and if I find Pyroclasm, I also think I'm in good shape. These walls are doing work. Oh no, the rest library. Oh, that was the last turn that the rest was live. And then I was gonna force the issue. So Bone Shredder gets rid of Terravore. Very impressive comeback by my opponent. Port doesn't really do anything. So I can play 3 treetops. My opponent chomps here, block, block, block. So it doesn't really do anything. It just denies them the mana, which I don't think they're using anyway. So I guess I'd rather port them on their upkeep. It's not like I'm getting clocked anyway, so I'm just going to treetop and activate another treetop. And this attack is I'm doing exclusively because it's free. Like I'm not afraid of my opponent doing anything. So this is just free to make, and it just denies them mana. I'm just gonna chomp with Bone Shredder here. And obviously attacking with the factory there makes no sense. They have a free blocker, so... And it actually doesn't deny them mana. So now we tap a Swamp, and now they untap. So at this point, I think my best draw is Pyroclasm. And my opponent's best draw is probably Recurrent Nightmare, Ravenous Veloth. Yeah, that one's gonna be king here. A king amongst 3/3s. Library does not actually do something. It just forces my opponent's hand. It just forces the Vigilante from their hand. Once again, port the Black Source. What I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to have them use Wall of Roots mana, but my opponent has been managing their Wall of Roots very, very well to make sure that they are low force. Definitely not blocking Veloth. Take 4, thank you. They have to Vigilante here, there's no option. Okay, Pyroclasm off the top one time. Rub our hands together and... Mishra's Factory, does that do anything? So we have 5 attackers, opponent has 4 blockers. That means they are forced to sack the Ravenous Veloth. It also kills the Vigilante, so I guess it's worth doing. This is not pretty though, not pretty at all. Suit up everybody. I do wonder what they block, how they block with Vigilante, because they get to trade for something. They take 3, down to 2. And now what? Squee 4 for Hermit. Pyroclasm one time. Still have 3 in the deck. Pyroclasm, Carplucent Forest. Yeah, so now we are gonna be in a little bit of a stalemate here. Awkwardly enough, my opponent gets to use all of their mana to pay for upkeep. I don't even get to disrupt that. If my opponent had been playing Classic The Rock, we would have won this game fairly easily, I think. Okay, Porta Black Source. I am actually just terrified that my opponent did not pay upkeep. That probably suggests that they have Recurrent Nightmare. Squee for Veloth. Okay. Pyroclasm still live. Pyroclasm still live here. 4th treetop is not quite it, so we're just going to pass the turn again. Once again, port the Black Source on up. The reason for porting black, obviously, is so my opponent doesn't get a free survival activation, of course. Squee for Elder. Okay, Elder comes down. Opponent just trying to dig through their deck. Veloth gets in there. Interesting. I'll take it. Another port. Ugh. What to do? I can't break through their wall army. So if I untap 3 treetops, because I get to attack with both factories as well. I suit up all 3 treetops. They block, block, block. Elephant token trades for squirrels. They get to trade Elder for one of my factories. Yeah, that doesn't really benefit me. Opponent sacks Elder and end step. I think my opponent's just all in on finding Recurrent Nightmare. And once they do, it's definitely going to be good enough. And we are effectively all in on Pyroclasm at this point. The other live card could be Oath, or I guess a Terravore. Though Terravore would only be a 4/4 here. And my opponent can go find Withered Wretch and they have a bunch of mana. So that's not really that big a deal. There's the Wretch. So now Terravore no longer an out, and Pyroclasm's still lethal. I guess I can actually use a factory to force a trade on the Baloth. I could have done that last turn. Honestly forgot. Opponent going to this card. Just drawing too many cards. City of Brass, that's hilarious. Thermocars. Yeah, I guess. Might as well. It's pretty hilarious that my opponent literally cannot play that City of Brass, otherwise they would have died to their port. So, tight play on their part, actually. Very nicely played. Also, awkwardly enough, this gives my opponent something to use their swamp mana on. And this game has been so long. Opponent has only 3 minutes left on clock. Play the swamp we knew about. Go get another wall. So many walls. See what we find. Pyroclasm. Send it back. Port swamp. ×2. The thing is, at least the good thing going for me is the fact that Pyroclasm beats everything, I think. I'm not sure if there's anything my opponent can have that beats Pyroclasm. Here we block, and I double pump. This means that if my opponent, if they choose to actually trade, that means that they are forced to sack in this Baloth. They can't sack the Baloth, I mean. So they get to choose. Like, do I want to gain the 4 or do I want to trade with the factory? So yeah, they value the life highly, which I think makes sense. Graveborn Muse, and they go get another bird. Okay, one time, Pyroclasm. Oath. At least that one does something. Okay, now my opponent actually cares about exiling some cards with redundant mana, which makes sense. So port there, port the other one. We're still not facing lethal. Okay, they did find a Recurrent Nightmare. So now I think the line is to... Oh, they bring back Hermit. Feel like I would have brought back Bone Shredder first thing, so that then they don't have to sack the Hermit. Yeah, because now their dudes are 1/1s. Now otherwise their dudes would be 2/2s. We have one last turn for Pyroclasm. Oh, they had mana for 3. Never mind. Never mind. Opponent probably has Naturalize over there. Yeah, okay. So Pyroclasm or bust. Pyroclasm or bust. Last time. If there any way... Because I can, obviously, I think that I can clock my opponent here, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm trying to think if there's any way that I can survive. I can't let 5 creatures go, and I have 5 blockers. They have way more than that. Yeah, I'm just dead. I guess Pyroclasm was better against this deck than I gave it credit for. I should have had a 4th copy. All right, 4-1. This deck looked great. This deck looked absolutely great. And we're on to the top 8. I thought it was going to be 6 rounds, but it was actually just 5. This hand looks great. We're paired against Umeboshi again. And knowing what my opponent is up to, here we get to turn 1 library and then go from there. That seems like a decent play. We're going to pitch the Snow Forest. Deck lists are open, but they have not shared them yet, I don't think. Turn 1 Mana Dork. Nothing. I think I'm just going to pay 4 here. And I'm going to take this turn to swing for 2. If my opponent plays a Winter Orb, I'm totally okay with that. Opponent with the second basic forest. Yes. Yes. Yeah, we're definitely playing that one. Thinking whether I want to... I think I want to do this. Just play out another treetop. Like, the question was whether I want to just treetop there. Or like take the turn off to play treetop or swing for 2. Like, that was the question. But I think that taking the turn off to treetop is fine. Here we can get another sphere into play, which is really interesting. Yikes. Guess I'm gonna pay for one of these just to clear the top because I really, really want to hit my land drop. So 1, 2, 3, another sphere, and we're gonna get in there for 2. Cool stuff. Okay, so my opponent's gonna plow. Seems okay to me, actually. Gain some life for library. We can still cast potentially a Terravore. Finding land there is great. Considering whether I want to Mox. And I'm only really considering this because I know that my opponent is playing a deck with Winter Orb. Yes. Oh, and I misclicked. Like an idiot. I guess that happened. Swing here with the guys that can swing. I definitely meant to pitch it to Mox Diamond. That was 100% a mistake on my part. I think even if my opponent Winter Orbs, like, it just slows them down as much as me, if not more. And then we can leverage Naturalize. So the only thing I'm kind of scared of here is my opponent just chaining some Fire and Ices, and all of a sudden I just die from 6. I don't think it's super likely to happen, but it's something that I need to be aware of. Okay, so my opponent's finally doing something. This is gonna be a Negator. It is a Negator. That is a little bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so that allows me to play a Terravor, which is gonna be a 3/3. Yeah. And we wasteland the City of Brass, of course. So now Terravor is a 3/3. If my opponent attacks, we trade, but they take 3. If they have Swords to Plowshares, that's Nightmare scenario. We go up to 9 and then down to 4. So Swords to Plowshares is Nightmare scenario. Fire Eyes is pretty bad as well. We go to 1, but that uses my opponent's entire turn. I swing. Oh, I cannot swing back for lethal. I'm 1 short. My opponent can't really attack, because if they attack, I just block. They go down to 3, they have no more mana. I would just go from there. Okay, never mind. That's very good. So obviously we block. They have to sack 3 things. They're going to sack Rancor and 2 lands. We go down to 2. But that grows my next Terravor, which is kind of a big deal. It also means that the Rancor cannot be easily recast. No extra land is a huge deal there. Library is not great. We found all 4 libraries. So we can actually make the Terravor a 6/6, which I think oh no, never mind, I can't, because we have 2 spheres. What does that mean? I guess we just play the Terravor, play a 5/5, and we lose to land off the top. Yeah, I guess that's it. So send the turn, holding onto the land so I can pitch it to Mox. But we're actually dead to land off the top here. No attacks. Okay, huge deal. Untap, Winter's Grasp is big. Okay, so this is also 5 mana. So now we grasp that. I feel like that was the one turn where things could have gotten out of hand. And that Winter's Grasp off the top now puts me in a pretty commanding position. Next turn I can even start attacking with Treetop Village. Cannot attack with the Terravor, but we can start attacking with Treetop. Fetch land is good. Allows me to shuffle these silly libraries. So play that out. There's 2 spheres. There's nothing my opponent can do. So I can just serve with both. Go to 1, and it's safe to serve with both of these. 2% lethal for next turn. I guess this is just lethal this turn, never mind. So we swing with everything. I was thinking we can just attack with Treetops and like my opponent can't block, they go to 4, kill them next turn, but like we actually had actual lethal here. Because my opponent's forced to jump here, then they have to suck. That was close. So Call of the Herd looks good here. Pyroclasm, I think it's probably okay. I think we were more on the draw. I guess I'm more on the Fear game plan. On the play a little bit more into the Winter's Grasp game plan. So we were actually given deck lists here. So we know they have 4 Fire Eyes, 4 Call of the Herd, 4 Plow, 3 Winter Orb main deck, 3 Mana Leak, only 2 Rancor, 2 Waxwane, 1 main deck Cloak, that would have been sick, 3 Plague, 3 Hydroblast, 2 Brush Hopper, 2 Getter, and we need to be aware of that. Thornscape Apprentices are kind of good against us. 3 Negator, 1 Flesh River, interesting split. 4 Meddling Mages, yeah, I think I need the 4 Pyroclasms. And we're gonna go... Man, Naturalist, it's only for Winter Orb. I think I'm just gonna leave the 1, like, it's just so low value. This hand looks pretty great. Let's keep it. We have some Oaths. We have some Pyroclasms. This hand does stuff, let me tell you. Turn 1, Heath. My best draw is probably just Mox Diamond. Opponent also moved to 6. I do need to be aware of that Armageddon. Let's actually lead on Port here, because I don't think I'm going to be swinging for 2 on turn 2, so like that doesn't really matter. But by playing out Port, I am opening myself up to pivoting if necessary. So now next turn I can just play the Factory and just play nothing, just tap their land. They could have Meddling Mage here, which I think is what's going to happen. And if they do and they name Oath, I'm just going to Pyroclasm. Just get my 1/1, and then we go from there. They named Oath, yeah. But I cannot really afford to get my Pyroclasm countered. So we're just going to get it while the Gideon's good. Get rid of the Mage. Move on with our lives. Thornscape Apprentice. Flesh River. So my opponent's all in over there. Let's play an Oath and say go. I guess I should have tapped differently, because I need the... I could have represented Pyroblast, which is not super likely that I have, but now I just confirmed it to them. Now they just don't really have to play around it. Thornscape kind of checks the Oath here, though. I think my opponent's just gonna try to race. Feels like that's the game plan right here. Yeah, they're just trying to put as much power into play as possible. Just accept the Oath and accept the free the free dudes are going to start showing up and just try to work around them, which is probably not a great game plan, but they have to do what they got to do. Interesting. So here we have some options. So my opponent's going to tap this. So by playing Factory, I am just turning the race on them because of the Flesh River. So I think we don't play Library and we just pass the turn. So my opponent can tap with Thornscape Apprentice. They can untap and they can tap again, meaning they tap my Factory, but then I'm just going to get another Oath trigger. And now this Apprentice is going to be a little bit... So now this is the issue with Flesh River instead of the Negator. It's like first strike on this card doesn't really do anything. Okay, so now they take 9. We take 9 down to 6, but we just get to tap their white source with port. So they need to have exactly another white source here? Yeah, I think we're good here. Like, I think it was probably just a forced play for my opponent, but I think that we're in the clear now. Wait, they gain life? How does that happen? So they took 6, but then they gained 6? What happened there? I'm confused. So we tap the City of Brass. Now we untap, we're gonna get another Oath trigger. We're kind of hoping that this gets the Terravor large enough. It does not grow the Terravor at all. That's a yikes. So I guess we don't actually have lethal here. We can cast a Terravor though. Go down to 5. We still have a Snowland in the deck. Good thing, because otherwise it would have been a disaster. So this deals the damage before they get the triggered ability? Man, I'm very confused about how this happened. Yeah, I don't think we can attack. So I'm just going to play out these and then send the turn back. And I guess I don't want to tap their land because this allows me to have a charm blocker for the elephant if I were to need that. I think we get there anyway, but maybe they have some amount of Swords to Plowshares going on in hand or something. Untap, no Oath, move to combat. They tap 1. What's the worst thing that can happen here? Swords to Plowshares. But if that happens, I gain a million life, so that's fine. Fire Eyes doesn't really do anything. I think this is a clean attack. I hope that I'm not wrong. They can take one of the Terravors, but not the other one. Definitely want to stack them like that. And that's lethal. Okay, well, there you go. Got there. This matchup seems pretty bad for McLean, but yeah, lucky for us. See you for the semis. So there's actually 3 Survival Rock decks in the top 8. One is the player that we lost again, and there's 2 more. So I'm just gonna go over quickly. So this is more like John. We have to watch out for Breed. We have to watch out for Flame Tongue Kabu. Okay, that's kind of it really, main deck. For the rest, only 3 Therapy, 2 Recurring Nightmare, only 20 lands. Let's see if we can capitalize on that. And 3 Plague, 3 Naturalize, 2 Spike Feeder, 2 Saddle's Web. That's a big deal. 1 Lyrist, 1 Withered Wretch. Okay, no Anger is good to know about. On to the match. This hand looks fun. Actually, it's kind of medium. No Answer to Survival is really problematic. And also no Oath. I think I'm going to ship this, actually. This is much better, I think. So keep this one. I think we're going to bottom this. Having access to Pyroclasm, also kind of a big deal. Turn 1 Treetop, go. It's going to be interesting what do we do on turn 2. Because I'm not going to be able to blow up lands on 3 if I have to fetch. So we're just going to pass the turn, hoping that my opponent... Although I guess if they can Cabal Therapy here. Okay, the rest is fine. They can only take 1 of my Pyroclasms. Therapy would be devastating though. So maybe I should have just fired off the Pyroclasm. Thermokarst. Interesting. Well, we're going to fetch for a red source. And I think I'm going to Plasm here. Even though it's less mana efficient, but this is black mana and Basic Forest is not black mana. So that's that. Wall of Roots into Bird. That is quite annoying. So Winter's Grasp again. They could have another Duress, which would be a problem, but Cabal Therapy would be even worse. It's kind of a big deal. So they missed a land drop. This is my last. I think I'm just going to fire off the Pyroclasm here. It's pretty bad value, but my opponent's missing land drops, and I think we kind of have to capitalize on that. I want to limit their access to black mana. That's a morph, which they can't flip. So we're definitely going to pay some mana here to make sure that we get full value. And we can cast every card in our deck, so I think I'm just going to spend this turn to drop 2 spheres. Now my opponent gets to blow up the library, but we drew 2 cards off it. They're stuck on black mana. They play a Bird, so they let me library again. Interesting. So we can't Pyroclasm anymore. So now we're looking for Oath. That's a Terravor. I guess I Thermokarst this turn. Can I afford to pay life here? We go to 5. I don't think I can. So let's Thermokarst. I feel like this is the kind of game that I have to play. Opponent gets in there for 2. No flip. We do draw the Terravor. Okay, so now we Winter's Grasp. And now we're going to next turn cast the Terravor. which is going to be a 4-4. Now we're at 5 life. We know opponents got no removal, and we have the next land already covered. Opponents got Bone Shredder. They flip Vigilante, blowing up the library. Feels like that should have happened a while ago. Gonna blow up that land. Homeboy's now a 5-5. And next turn we can start attacking, because we have the tree top to block. 5, yeah. Yeah, we're definitely taking the trade. This means that now we have top decks that we can't actually cast, but it also means that my opponent has nothing going on. None more ways we can now cast everything. They still only have 3 mana, meaning that they're 2 mana away from Bone Shredder. I'm thinking whether it's worth it for me to play the Mox Diamond just so I can pitch the factory. This makes this into a 7-7. Opponent goes down to 2, next turn we swing for 7 again. We force triple chomp. Otherwise, we swing for 6 now, opponent goes down to 3. Then next turn, Mishra's Factory is not lethal. I mean, it's actually the same thing, I think. And they can't really deploy anything because they need to, like, this Wall of Root is out of counters. They're already cashing the Wall of Blossoms. And next turn, we're presenting lethal, forcing the double chomp. 4 mana for another Wall of Roots. So that means we still have sneaky lethal here. So what we can do is we can just swing with both. My opponent blocks the factory, and then we just naturalize our own factory. The other option is just blow up their land and just go for that instead, which I think it's what I'm going to do. It just, both lines lock the game up anyway, but this one, I don't know. I just like casting things that destroy lands. Okay, so Pyroclasm comes in, Fairness comes in, Call of the Herd is interesting. Oh, we actually need all the naturalizes here, because we actually, let's figure out my opponent's sideboard, because they have Sabbath's Web, which is a big deal. So I guess I'm going to need 4 naturalizes because of Web. It is good to know that my opponent's only running 20 lands. They're playing a bunch of dorks, but only 20 actual lands. So the LD game plan is not bad against them per se. 2 Withered Wretches. So I still think that we cut the Grasps and maybe cut the Spheres. Spheres were obviously fantastic in that game, but learn my lesson. Definitely want all 4 Pyroclasms. Definitely want all 4 Oaths. I think I want Spheres over Winter's Grasp. 3 naturalizes or 4. I just have to respect Sabbath's Web, especially on the draw, so I'm gonna go with this. Sabbath's Web is so brutal against us. After having played against this matchup, I'm not sure that I want Call of the Herd, because it just gets brick walled by all of my opponent's walls. Maybe because of Sabbath's Web, I probably need to go for that, though. I think it's close. 61 cards. I don't think I like this hand. It's pretty good against Sabbath's Web, so that part is nice. Opponent kept 7, though, so if they have turn 1 duress, like, that's kind of a disaster. I guess I'll keep this anyway. Yeah, they have turn 1 duress. Brutal. Still think I want turn 1 Foothills. Nice. So now they don't know this Pyroclasm. Now it's gonna be a surprise. Survival. Let's fetch now. I really want to minimize the chances of drawing another thing here. And we're just going to upkeep, tap the green source. The black source. I don't want to give my opponent a free green source. We'll see what my opponent goes to get with survival. Cabal Therapy, please. Oh, I guess I should be playing Thermokarst and Winter's Grasp. This was a mistake on my part, because my opponent doesn't really have snow-covered lands named Oath. Okay, that's a big whiff. For me, really good news for me. So now they need to have a mana dork. Okay, and I need to sack it right now to take my Thermokarst, which is effectively like me casting a free Pyroclasm, which I'm not against. They have to name Thermokarst, otherwise put them pretty far behind. That's a turn I didn't use survival, by the way, so if I draw a naturalize here, perfect. So now we get to do this. Opponent didn't get any value from that Sabbath's Web, which we did play around pretty nicely, I must say. But we can only play around so well, right? Once again, I'm fetching here because I really don't want to draw the last basic forest. That would be a disaster. But I'm pretty aware that I'm just giving up value from potential library top deck. So now they're gonna take the Pyroclasm. We play on. Yeah, that's good enough for me to wasteland. Obviously I'm not gonna port. It's a nice draw. Let's play the mountain. And this is close. So but my opponent has a therapy in the graveyard. So if they play something like this means that they cannot do anything until they naturalize this. The problem is if they do something like the Range Hermit, if they're a good player, which I think they are, they're going to play the Hermit and immediately flashback Therapy to name Oath. So I think it's much better for me to play out Oath of Druids, and I think it's pretty likely, considering my opponent has not been doing anything. I think it's actually fairly likely that my opponent has Hermit in hand. So now we're just playing a little bit of a waiting game, where the question is, who will draw survival Thirst before Naturalize. Pyroclasm's a good draw. So my opponent's trying to draw Survival, and I'm trying to draw a Naturalize slash a Terravore. There we go. If they draw the second Savos Web, we get super punished for doing this. But if they don't, we can actually attempt to get this game over with, which is kind of a big deal. I'm really telegraphing this Naturalize though. Wow, they just pack it in. Wow, I mean, I think that's an early concession, but yeah, I mean, we were cooking. We were definitely cooking there. All right, that was cool. On to the finals. We're going to be on the draw because this is a rematch from the very last round of the Swiss. I think I'm going to keep this hand. Obviously, Therapy just owns me so badly. But yeah, so this version of the deck, Mana Creatures, Hermit, Bone Shredder, Graveworm Muse, Masticore, Mesmeric Fiend, 4 Therapies, 3 Dresses. There's the Therapy, which is worst case scenario really. This is going to name either Oath or Pyroclasm, so it's going to hit both. Ooh, name Library. Okay. Can I draw Mox? Wasteland doesn't quite do anything. Guess I'm gonna play Factory because it gives me the most options. Opponent has the green source. World of Blossoms is brutal. So now my opponent gets the flashback. Take my Pyroclasms. Maybe they'll take Oath here actually. They take the Oath. I guess maybe the other one is easier for them to play around. So this turn we're just gonna port the green source. My opponent has more green cards that I'm worried about than black cards. Obviously they can just have another Therapy and then we just get absolutely destroyed, but I think the line here is to go after green sources. Bird? Huh. So this is effectively the same as tapping a land, so I think I'm interested in doing this to make my opponent's potential Cabal Therapies a little bit worse. 4 mana for a Baloth. That's acceptable. So we're gonna play Factory, and then we're just gonna tap the black source now. Here we're just trading. Opponent has no main deck Naturalize effects. Oh no, actually I can't trade here. Never mind. Next turn I can just play the 3rd Factory, and then my opponent can't attack anymore. With that I can Wasteland, but they have a black source. So now they're gonna get rid of the Pyroclasm, I imagine. Steel name Oath. We know one of the cards is a Swamp. Nice pickup. So here we're just going to Wasteland. And now that we drew this Terravore, I'm kind of interested in just trading with this Baloth if my opponent offers. Now once again, I'm just confusing things. Like I still need 1 more mana. And trade. Never mind. So I guess I should have attacked. I missed 3 points. Could matter. Yeah, I guess we're gonna play Treetop. We're gonna upkeep once again. Opponent still has the Swamp. And now we're going to Thermokarst. Graveworm Muse. That's a problem. Fetch here for a forest. Thermokarst black. Yeah. Send the turn back. Opponent takes a point to draw a card. Pretty strong. Found another black source. Just bad news for me. Masticore. No attack. Okay. So I guess we're going to play a Terravore, which can be a 5/5. And now send the turn back. Bone Shredder is lethal, I think. Because it's going to force me to just chomp. So we probably can't beat Bone Shredder. But my opponent doesn't really have good attacks otherwise. Really? Oh, because the Masticore can just kill my Factory. They can ping 3 times. So the play now is to activate both Factories. Okay, so my opponent does allow me to block. I think they're going to try to block to kill the Terravore. So I'm trying to think, how can I force my opponent to sink the most mana into the Masticore damage as opposed to regeneration? I can also take a hit, notably. Definitely want to trade with Graveworm Muse. So I think the line is to do this here. I think the line is to block like this. So now this is going to pump itself, and we just allow this trade to happen. Now Terravore is a 7. We're at 2, which is not great, but now we can Pyroclasm. That kills the bird. Float a mana, which is whatever. And now we have to pass the turn, and we have to hope my opponent doesn't find a land, because land is the only way that I lose. Land, untap land, or the other thing, the Bone Shredder. Okay, so they found the land. So that means now they can set up lethal. I'm 1 mana short. I'm just 1 mana short of being able to stop this. Man, this was insanely close. This was so close. Very cool game. Very cool game. Game number 2. We want Furnace, Tormod's Crypt, all the Pyroclasms. I guess we don't want all the Naturalizes. Let's see the sideboard. 4 Naturalizes, 4 Plague. Those don't matter. So 2 Smother matter. Bone Shredder matters. So 2 total Bone Shredders. That's important. 1 Faceless Butcher. That's an interesting one too. Wither the Wretch. They have 2 of them. Only 2 Recurring Nightmares though. Now we're gonna be on the play. And I think that means I want to cut a Mox, want to cut 1 and 1 of the land destruction effects. This list has actually more lands than my previous opponent. This one's playing 21. 2 naturalized seems okay. Not ideal, but okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut a Winter's Grasp. I really like Sphere, I think. Being on the play gonna be a really big deal. This is fine, I think. A little bit on the slow side, which I'm not super stoked about, but it's pretty good against Duress, Therapy, etc. We have clean mana. I don't want to play out the Tormod script until the turn where I know that it's gonna be good. I don't want to run into an Octavia Orangutan. But yeah, the nice thing about this hand is that it's kind of serviceable, but it doesn't have any of my great cards, which means that, you know, I'll hopefully find those eventually. Opponent moves to 5. Send the turn back. Really hoping to find a 2-drop. Oddly enough, this is a hand where I don't even know if I would play a Sphere if I draw it, because I really want to be casting my 3-drops. Okay, so they go for the Winter's Grasp. Makes sense. Port. Good draw. Very good draw. Still blowing up a land here. And I think that I want to blow up the basic, because my opponent already is going to have black mana this turn. So I'd rather get rid of the one that can't be wastelanded. 2 mana for wall. That's a good draw. That's a really good draw. Play a red source, Pyroclasm into Oath, pass the turn back. Maybe they have Naturalize here. That means the game doesn't immediately end. Just keep playing. If they don't have the Naturalize right now, I think we're going to win. So now this Stormlord script is still open to Duress, which is just fine. If my opponent wants to spend their turn Duressing this, I'm okay with that, I think. Green and colorless for another wall. Just trying to hit land drops, and they don't. Okay, so that, I think that's gonna be game. Only a baby Terror there. Okay, now I can actually play out the Tormod script, because I'm not really scared of Octavi anymore. Port you. And I still want to trigger Oath again. That's why I didn't deploy the second Terror. It's not like my opponent's going to be able to Therapy here. They could have drawn Naturalize off the wall plus the other card. Oh, Smother? Oh, Smother their own Wall of Blossoms. Sure. So that means that now the Treetop Village is online. Opponent packs it. Okay. Whew! On to game 3. Now we're actually going to be on the draw. So Spheres are going to be a little bit less effective. Mox Diamond a little bit better. And I guess another Winter's Grasp is going to find its way into the deck. Once again, Call of the Herd I'm a little bit shaky on. Not crazy stoked about them. But yeah, like this deck actually has a lot more graveyard shenanigans than I originally expected now that I've seen the deck list. So that's why I think that it's a Tormod script worthy matchup. Yeah, we're gonna keep this hand. Turn 1 Oath, no big deal. My opponent's got the rest though. Maybe they take the Mox Diamond. Go for the Mox Diamond. So that suggests that my opponent has another discard spell. So we're gonna spend this turn playing out the Treetop Village. And now my opponent's gonna have to have a duress right now. Oh, Cabal Therapy, yeah, Cabal Therapy. There you go. So now they're gonna take the Pyroclasms. Oh, the Oath, actually. The Pyroclasms are not really castables here. On the plus side, we drew a green source, so we can start to do some non-distraction shenanigans. Play Factory, say go. 3 cards in hand for opponent, 4 now with the draw step. Funnily enough, the card I'm most scared of there is Yavimaya Elder, which is kind of hilarious to think about. Play a land. We're gonna go after the black source. Opponent knew that was coming. It's crazy, these draws are not great. So I guess I'm just gonna spend this turn to play a 1/1 Terravor. So sad. Next turn I can start swinging though. How sad is that this Terravor actually dies to my Pyroclasm in hand. Would love to draw something to blow up a land with. I'll accept that as well. Treetop, swing, opponent makes the good block, and show me the Naturalize. They have it. Okay, we play on. Still no black source. Okay, activate Factory, activate Treetop, swing for some damage, pump here. They're gonna block one of the 3 power creatures, then take 4. Our hand is face up here. Still nothing, huh? Well, this is what our deck does. Here comes 5 damage. Opponent could have something like Deranged Hermit, which would be a problem. Survival, that one's also a problem. Winter's Grass. So this is the last clean attack that I'm gonna get. So I can get in there for 5, or I can get in there for 4 and blow up land. I think what the difference maker there is the fact that I get to... I'm gonna end up blowing up the land. The reason being that I can... Now my Terravor is more likely to survive a Pyroclasm. Also, my opponent cannot go for Deranged Hermit, because that's the way they get out of this, right? Like Deranged Hermit, gum up the board, and then just flashback Therapy, name Pyroclasm. Oh, they have no creatures in hand. They drew a creature there. I mean, they have to play walls here. Get Squee, and I imagine they're gonna get another wall. Wall of Blossoms, Black Source. So they could have Smother? Whoa, they could have Smother here. So I guess I have to assume they have Smother. So if they have Smother, they kill the Terravor, and I have to land one of these Pyroclasms. So let's think about it. 1, 2, 3 mana. This is a treetop. 1, 2. It's a factory. I need to present lethal. But once again, I'm assuming that my opponent has Smother. So they're going to Smother the Terravore, then swing, because I really want to Pyroclast in pre-combat. I think the Wasteland has to blow itself up so that I can Pyroclast in pre-combat, and then force a double chump. Can I force a double chump? Because if I Pyroclast in post-combat, I blow up my own factories. I could also port the Black Source right now. So let's play out the Wasteland. Activate Treetop, because Treetop tramples. Wasteland, blow itself up, Pyroclasm, swing with Factory. Go to combat with everything. Opponent's gonna put Blossoms in front of Treetop, or that. They go to 1, so I guess they want to use Wall of Roots this turn. That also means no Survival activation this turn, by the way. Opponent goes down to 1. We still have the Pyroclasm, so we can kind of make a repeat of this turn. But now the Treetop Village is that much more threatening because of the trample. Wall of Blossoms into Wall of Roots. Okay, let's think now. I class them, this dies. They have to put Wall in front of Treetop, otherwise it just tramples. So they ditch Graveborn Muse for Baloth. So now, man, they got the Baloth. We can activate Treetop and port my opponent on upkeep. I'm 1 mana short from doing everything. But if I swing with Factory, my opponent just blocks with Wall, and they block with Wall, so it doesn't do anything. So I need to do Treetop activation. Is the only way to force the Wall of Roots to chump. This means I don't get to kill the Wall of Blossoms, but if my opponent misses a land drop, then I can deny them the win. And next turn I'm gonna have 3 blockers, so I think this is my best shot at winning, at least right now. Let's think. So if they spend next turn playing out their Baloth, they play that out, we activate everything again, and then they have to block a factory, and they gain 5 and we still swing for lethal. So I guess this is just better. This is just the better play. What this does though is now I'm open to my opponent to exactly top decking the land for having the Range Hermit already in hand and top decking the land for it. So if they do that, then we lose. I mean, we don't lose, we just keep playing. We can still draw another Pyroclast and then we have some cards that we can draw from here. But if their best line is play out a Baloth, I think we should be good. Wall of Roots. Pitch Squee, go get another Wall of Roots. Okay, do they have a bird? Do they just have a Naturalize? Yeah, I don't think we have anything better to do though. Swing with everything. Hope you don't have Naturalize. Woo! Yeah, baby! Ooh, that game was close! God damn! Man, my opponent's deck is so sick. Big fan, big fan. Oh my god! Dude, I just took like a 5-minute break to take a breather, and I'm still like so stoked about that last match. That was that's probably like the best game I've played in a very long time. That was incredible. Holy shit. I mean, this is right here, like I guess like the deck for the very first challenge of every season, because this actually was the deck that I won the challenge with in the very first challenge that I can't even talk, man. Yeah, this was awesome. I'm super stoked. Like I won the challenge in the very first one with a very similar list to this one, and now new season of the challenges, the very first one. I take it down as well. Dude, shout out to my opponent, and I don't know their name, but like Rorix94. Dude, what a crazy deck. I think the original list was from Phil, which actually was in this very top 8, but the changes that Rorix made, I thought were spectacular. I feel like it followed exactly the same deck building philosophy that I follow, which is let's cut all of these braids and cutesy cards and instead play with pound for pound good cards, like more copies of Baloth, which is how I lost game 1 because my opponent just started racing me with a Baloth. They didn't even activate survival. So having access to that kind of angle can be really, really valuable, and it makes you much less reliant on having the card survival in play in order to be able to do anything at all. So I do like that the building approach is what I always try to go for, and I'm very happy that it worked out for them with the finals appearance. 3 out of 3 players. 100% conversion rate for Survival Rock. So maybe that's the new deck. Like, the deck looked absolutely spectacular, and I feel like I'm talking more about that than this deck, but still, like, this was a fantastic tournament. Only 32 players was kind of weird because it left us exactly at 5 rounds as opposed to 6, but still, great stuff nonetheless. This deck just continues to impress, man. It's just so good. It's just so good. And the changes that I did not super come into play. Like, I did bring in like the Furnace and the Turmoil Script that they didn't really do anything. We didn't face any Replenish, we didn't face any Burn. So we didn't really were in a situation where like the changes that I made, we actually got value from. But still, you know, like the shell is so freaking strong. Pyroclasm is so great on average. Like, if I had Swords to Plowshares, maybe it would have been better like in a couple of spots here and there. But overall, in against the meta at large, in big events like this one, I think I'd rather be on the red-green version than the green-white version that I won the championships with, where I went for that mostly because I kind of knew what my opponents were going to be playing, and you know, Swords to Plowshares and Ray of Revelation just happened to line up really well against those opponents. But yeah, I very much recommend this deck. I find it insanely fun, and I think that it's very cool and challenging to play, which is why I continue to enjoy it. And it also just happens to be very good. So if you want to take it for a spin, I highly recommend it. And I don't know. I mean, just put your Savos waves in your sideboard. That's all I'm going to say. That's it from me today, folks. Thank you so much. This was very, very exciting. And I'll see you in the next Premodern video. Long live Premodern.